Welcome to SwitchCorner, my name is Alex and today we're going to be taking a look at Lone Ruin on the Nintendo Switch. This one, it's a roguelike experience from super rare games, but can it compete with some of the best in the genre? Well, that's what I'm here to find out, so hit subscribe, join us here for reviews and deals daily, and let's get started. So there's really very little in the way of story outside of an opening, a cutscene as you enter a ruin, a closing scene that then tops it off, but it adds very little in the way of narrative, and there's a single character with dialogue who simply offers you weapons to use. So we're going to be skipping that and heading straight into gameplay. I will add here, however, it is a very cool world and I do wish they had done maybe a little more with it, as there's something here that definitely makes me wish for more. As I open then, it's a roguelike, meaning the idea here is to complete a run in a single attempt. There's no leveling up and no progression that carries over. It's simply a game of skill and somewhat, I guess, luck in regards to the perks and abilities that present themselves to you with progression. Basically, you move room to room and attempt to take down these wave of enemies. Should you succeed, you'll receive some sort of perk. Think like Hades as a baseline before it. You'll get 2 rooms to choose from with each completion, and that will have a symbol representing the reward ahead of you. These can be everything from weapon power-ups to perks to even just simple things such as storefronts to spend some of that hard-earned cash. Think though a weapon power-up that presents you with multiple options, maybe more power or a quicker recharge time, because most of these weapons, they do act on a cooldown system. Maybe your dash ability, your dodge, it initially provides invincibility frames, but maybe it's going to now leave behind it a frozen trail that can leave damage. It is definitely relatively basic in its setup, and it's definitely going to be quick to get to grips with, but it's satisfying nonetheless. The controls then are simple as well, of movement with the left stick, target with the right. It's a twin stick setup, this one, and then you can use the 4 triggers to use one of 4 different abilities. You'll always start with 2 initially on a run, and you'll feel the remaining thanks to choosing a direction that can potentially feel at those attack patterns. Honestly, for me, controls felt a little bit off to me, at least initially. I'm more a fan of face buttons myself for attacks, especially those such as melee, which require constant interaction, but I did get used to it, and it's purely preference. It also makes complete sense, honestly, as this scheme, it's been set up perfectly to ensure you never release the controls for movement or aim. Once you do get into the game, however, the aim is simple: survive this collection of wave-based rooms. This is signified with skulls in the upper right of the screen, meaning this is going to be how many waves remaining you must face. Outside of weapons and ability upgrades, then you will find perks such as more health drops. You can find stores which require 0 combat, but gold of course to spend. This is dropped by enemies. And then there are treasure rooms. This is essentially your bank, and it can give you a healthy boost to your balance. You'll also find more simple but equally important locations, such as ones which restore health, or at least give you a good percentage of it back. The game in total, then, you'll be tackling 3 locations, 3 bosses, and the locations, they are colour swaps more than anything else. And while it is randomly generated, it seems we have a limited number of locations because I quickly identified repeats. I was able to beat the game though initially on easy mode in around, I'd say, an hour. Normal mode then took me maybe another couple of hours. It also features a hard mode, and understandably so, that was often brutal, and I'm still working my way towards completion. That said though, look, all in, you're looking at around 25 minutes for a full run of this ruin. My strategy was always attack as quickly as possible, because enemies though, they are displayed pre-generation on screen thanks to this, I guess, portal of sorts that pops up on the location. Honestly, the level count, even with multiple difficulties, feels a little limited. It's just 3 bosses and roughly that equates to around 20 levels. Driving for replayability then, outside of difficulty options, we get a high score with online leaderboards, though that feels a little convoluted, and this additional survival modes. The high score is convoluted because it's so many factors, it becomes really tough to understand how can I improve, such as, my health amount going into my score, what does that exactly mean? And then survival mode, I presumed this was endless because of the name, but instead it's a simple case of surviving alongside a timer that counts down. Where the mode does get unique, however, is it constantly forces you to change weapons and general setup. For single player, I'd mostly stuck to this electrical ability, a bolt, which chained attacks. That kind of, or at least the survival mode, kind of forced my hand to experiment with one of the other 8 included weapons. That's going to be everything from a scythe to more ranged abilities such as a railgun. While I'm on weapons as well, let's talk enemies, and there's a nice variety in here, each with a unique set of attack patterns. They should definitely keep you on your toes. The free bosses as well, they are entertaining, epic in scale, and they always deliver something we haven't seen before. That includes a few borderline entry level, what I describe as bullet hell experiences in design. I just kind of wish there was more than the basic 3 packed in. Even if we don't extend the number of levels, maybe we could, procedurally, or randomly generate the bosses ahead of us. Well, you could argue experimentation is the name of the game. I can't say I'm all of that inclined to head back in now and experiment. I'm kind of comfortable with what I know, and there's little in the way of incentive. This game would have really benefited from some sort of built-in achievement system that would have had me pushing to experiment with different weapons. Additional problems then, outside of the short runtime, the lack of understanding behind the high score chasing, it's just a little undercooked generally. The package only has 2 modes, as I said, and I wish it had something such as a true endless experience, a true reason to compete against myself and not rely on the idea of online leaderboards. On those online leaderboards as well are definitely a good idea, but they didn't once populate for me. I tried them multiple times. In fact, after every single run, it always got stuck on the loading screen. The game froze on me then during a run when I tried to change up the controls in the options. I just couldn't exit the menu. And on a single run, the enemy placement seems to be randomly generated, and a couple, they got stuck in the wall. They could hit me, but I couldn't hit them back. It left me in a place that required me to either die or simply quit. It's a frustrating flaw for a game that's designed to be challenging, from pretty much the second you boot it up. The other flaws then, the game tells you nothing. It didn't identify that skulls in the top right represent waves. It never advised on weapon slots versus perks in the lower right of the screen. And then there's a balance issue as well in regards to difficulty. The second or third bosses, for example, is quite a bit more difficult than at the final encounter. This is a game that could have desperately used some sort of, tutorial, even if it was just a text-based option from the main menu. Overall, look, there's a good idea in here. In fact, I had fun, and the difficulty options are probably the only thing keeping me coming back at this point, because they not only increase the amount of hits foes can take, but also restrict the number of hearts your character has. But with a lack of explanation, as I said, it's definitely hard to come back. And with so many incredible entries in the genre on the system, right around this same price point, it is somewhat difficult to recommend. I no question though still had fun with it, but it's easy to spot this one's shortcomings. It shows promise, but if I had to describe it, I would say kind of feels a bit like a concept, a demo of an idea with some promising ideas, do not get me wrong, but it can't quite deliver. Even something as simple as built-in achievements, that would go a long way, force me to complete runs with each and every included weapon, because right now, I'm really not feeling that urge. Visually then, I love it. Yes, it's got that retro pixelated style, but it's packing a love for neon as well, and if you haven't noticed my logo on this channel, or PlayStation Corner, Xbox Corner, then I will tell you now, I'm definitely a fan of that style. The character animations are solid throughout. I really like the isometric viewpoint, and there's a nice selection of enemies. My only real visual complaint, the locations get a little repetitive in my opinion. Simple color swaps overall that are extremely easy to identify. The audio then is fantastic. While I can't say there's a huge amount occurring from a sound effect front, the music is stellar, high energy, and it always adds an additional layer of attention to the battle ahead of you. If I had to fit it into a genre, it's kind of borderline electronic with a dash of chiptune to match the visuals. So the final verdict in Lone Ruin is a funny one. It's a standard roguelike with the expected challenge that packs a couple of modes and multiple difficulties. That said though, its shortcomings are clear. It froze in a menu once, an enemy spawned in the wrong place twice, ending my run instantly, and then it just lacks in replayability if you're not one for simply experimenting for the sake of it. Additionally, the high score system is convoluted, and I couldn't once get the online element to load. I should add here as well, I tried that on 4 different internet connections. That is not the issue before you do go ahead and say it in the comments. Then honestly as well, it's all topped off with a lack of education around the game's simple systems and user interface. This all said though, I still had fun with it. It's an indie roguelike that has some good ideas, you just need to be forgiving going in. I've definitely been arguing with myself over this one as well regarding score, because when you're in the thick of the action it feels really good. I just again wish there was a little more to it. Those issues though right now are core issues with the design that do need to be patched. I wanted to give this one an above average 6 out of 10, but I just can't get there with the bugs that I have faced, and issues such as again high score leaderboards that won't load. These feel like they're absolutely essential for the experience. With that in mind today, an average 5 out of 10, but the developer has a ton of potential here and I'm excited to see where they go next. Also, Super Rare Games as a publisher, they clearly have an eye for potential, because prior to this they released Grapple Dog, a solid platformer, and this one with a few patches definitely has the potential to get there as well. So will you be checking out Lone Ruin then? Let us know in the comments. With that then, like it, subscribe, join us here for reviews and deals daily, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.